trade in focus. Chinese Vice Premier Liu He speaking out about last week's U.S. China trade negotiations in Washington, saying that substantial progress has been made between the two sides. This as the two countries are gearing up for a trade call this week. Meanwhile, Vice President Mike Pence is getting ready to deliver a speech on USMCA this morning. This on the heels of Mexico's president calling on U.S. lawmakers to approve this trade deal. Joining me right now is Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. And Mr. Secretary, it's good to have you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be on, Maria.
All right, let's talk first about China. What really did get done, Secretary? Because I know that the Chinese reneged the last time around because they didn't want to have that enforcement mechanism in the plan, right, which basically called for consequences if the theft in intellectual property continues.
Well, we still need that. There are really three buckets to the deal, ultimately. One is the one that was announced, trade itself, soybeans, things like that. Second is structural reform. No more technology transfers being forced, respect for intellectual property, equal market access, all that list of things. And then the third, and maybe the most important, is enforcement, because the record hasn't been that great on enforcement, so we need to have a real enforcement mechanism.
Yeah, and not great is like an understatement, right? I mean, the Chinese break promises all over town. They break promises with the WTO. They broke promises with the U.S. How are you going to get that enforcement in there and get the Chinese to follow it?
Well, if they don't, we really don't have much of an arrangement. Just a few scraps of paper with no enforceability. That's how this whole problem came up. When China was admitted to the WTO, it was under President Clinton's theory that they would then abide by the rules. But there was no real enforcement in case they didn't. And look what happened.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what the Chinese want, obviously they don't want these tariffs in place, right? Did they actually make an outward plea to you to say, get those December tariffs off the table?
Well, what we did agree to get off the table, at least postpone, were the October tariffs. December is another whole separate issue, just like Huawei is a separate issue. Those were not part of the last thing.
Okay, because I guess the reports after your meetings said that they were saying we're not going to sign this phase one unless we know that the December tariffs are off the meeting.
Well, we'll see.
Off the table.
People say a lot of things in between in negotiations. The real question is, do we get to an early signing of phase one? Second, how far do we get toward phase two or 2 and 3? 2 and 3 are really where the meat is.
So can you actually do a deal with just them buying more stuff and giving access to financial services companies?
Well, we would not regard that as a complete deal. The whole purpose of the 301s was to get those structural reforms. If we just wanted the trade as trade, we could have had that 2.5 years ago.
Right. It sounds like we're basically in the same place that we were before these meetings took place, frankly.
Oh, no, I think we're in a better place. And that, remember, for a while, there was no talk. It was broken off. Now they're back at the table. Clearly, they want to make a deal. We would like to make a deal. But from our point of view, it has to be the right deal. And it doesn't have to be in November. It's more critical that it be a proper deal than exactly when it occurs.
So you wouldn't mind not doing a signing at APEC then, November 15th or 17th, whenever it is?
The key thing is to get everything right that we do sign. That's the important element. That's what the president is wedded to. Whether it's this day or that day, that may be interesting to the media.
I understand
but
that.
It isn't the real game.
What's your take on what's taking place in Hong Kong? You know, I've been saying this quote that Xi Jinping said last month in September to the Prime Minister of Nepal. He said anybody who gets involved in dividing China is going to see their bodies shattered and their bones pounded to dust. I mean, what a statement from the president of China as we watch a 20th straight week of violence in Hong Kong. Is that putting pressure on him in terms of this deal?
Well, there is a lot of pressure on him because Hong Kong is not the only place where there's civil dissent. There's a lot of it elsewhere in the country. And so he has to be very careful that this doesn't spread outside of Hong Kong. But as to the details of it, and is he using the right level of force, that's something you really have to be more on the spot to deal with.
Yeah, it's been really hard to watch these pictures because things have actually turned violent. Would the U.S. see violence and say, look, we're not going to be dealing with you the way you're treating people? I mean, would that, because I know at one point President Trump said, look, if there's violence, these talks are off.
Well, I'm sure the president is watching very carefully everything that goes on in Hong Kong. And if at some point it gets beyond what he thinks is reasonable, that's when he would act. But I haven't heard anything from him yet that this requires action.
Let me turn to Brexit. The Parliament in the UK postponed the decision on whether to back Prime Minister Boris Johnson's deal to leave the European Union. There's only 10 days left now until this hard exit, which, of course, is October 31st. Are you expecting, if, hypothetically speaking, they end up leaving the EU, that the U.S. would do a deal with the UK pretty soon after?
Well, we have made very clear to Boris Johnson and to the others there, we're happy to do a deal very quickly with the UK. The issues between US and UK are far smaller than the issues between either of us and the EU. So that's a natural deal. And it actually, in some ways, could be better for us and the UK in that then Europe would have to deal with the combination of U.S. and U.K.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's not such a bed of roses for Europe to have a hard Brexit, especially it's not for Germany. Germany sells an awful lot of stuff to U.K.
Yeah, and we should point out Germany does it while using Huawei Telecom. I know that's another issue. I want to ask you about USMCA. Today is the Canadian elections. We were supposed to get USMCA voted on before the Canadian elections. Now we've got major strikes across the country. United Auto Workers are in their second month of strikes against General Motors. The Teachers Union in Chicago entering their 5th day of strikes. The New York Times examined this issue across the country in a piece today titled, "In a Strong Economy, Why Are So Many Workers on Strike?" So, Secretary, what are your thoughts about all of these strikes, and how does that connect the dots for us in terms of the USMCA trade deal in terms of these strikes?
Well, first of all, I'm going to be with the Vice President today out in Pennsylvania promoting the USMCA. What's sad is everybody knows, the Democrats and the Republicans, everybody knows USMCA is a far better deal than NAFTA, including it's a far better deal on labor issues and on environmental issues.
You think the unions know that,
so
too?
There's really no substance reason to not go for USMCA. There are only political reasons. It's just them not being willing, apparently, to give the president yet another victory.
Having said that, you think she's going to bring it to the floor for a vote? I mean, we are where we are, right? Politics or not.
Well, remember, there are only something like 20 congressional days between now and Christmas, so they better get going pretty fast if they're going to do it. They should do it. It would be not good. It's not good for the country if they don't do it. There's no reason not to do it.
I want to get to Christine Lagarde in a second, but on this subject, do you think that if they don't get it done, where are we? We're still in NAFTA, or is there a different scenario?
Well, there are two possible scenarios. The absent anything else, we would be in NAFTA. But remember, NAFTA is also cancelable on 6 months' notice.
So he may cancel NAFTA and do something else.
He's talked about that potentially before, but right now we're not focused on negative alternatives. Right now we're focused on trying to make clear through the American public to Nancy Pelosi, she should put it on the floor. If Democrats really don't like it, let them vote it down. We believe there's no question that if it gets to the floor, it'll be voted very strongly, both in the House and the Senate.
Secretary, there's a new warning this morning on America's global standing. This is from incoming European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde. Lagarde speaking out before she takes over as ECB president next month. Watch this.
I was brought up as a citizen of this world. The risk I see is that the United States is at risk of losing leadership. And that would be just a terrible development.
Because?
Because it has been a force for good and for those principles that I respect highly: the rule of law, democracy, free market, and consideration for the individual and respect.
Your reaction?
Well, her definition of American leadership apparently was you have to absorb huge trade deficits. That's not our definition. In fact, we are having more of a leadership role since we became aggressive than before. We made USMCA subject to congressional approval, biggest trade deal we ever had. Made a limited deal with Japan. Nobody before had been able to help solve that problem. We renegotiated the chorus arrangement. We're even getting some relief from the EU. So anybody who thinks that's a lack of leadership is simply misguided.
By the way, you've also changed the conversation around China. Before this, even corporate CEOs didn't really get it. They just wanted to get their products in front of 1.4 billion people without recognizing the behavior. So there's that, but that's a big unknown, by the way.
Leadership involves long-term. This is a deal about the long term. It's not just today's trading and tomorrow's. It's that, but more importantly, the structural reforms and the enforcement.
Real quick before you go, you were in Dallas with the president at the Louis Vuitton plant. Tell me about that and what you were trying to communicate.
Well, it was quite extraordinary. It's about an hour outside of Dallas. Beautiful new plant. It looks almost like a laboratory. Pristine white, very neat, very tidy. And about half the workers are legal Mexican Americans. So that was a very gratifying thing to see. They've trained the workers themselves. They'll end up with 1,000 workers over the next few years out of a town with 6,000 people.
Wow. Oh, that's big numbers. Secretary, it's great to have you this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you so much for joining us. Secretary Wilbur Ross there.